right, well, welcome everyone to our June 2022 Best Practices Masterclass. And we're going to be focused today on how to incorporate Coachmetrix into your business development process. And just a quick reminder that we take the summer off. So we'll see you back here in early September. We'll make some announcements in August on our schedule for the September Masterclasses. We've got a few changes, few ideas on how to make these better, and so we'll be in touch and let you know. Hopefully you'll join us in the fall as well as we expand how we run these master classes. So here's our plan for today. The overall theme is, how do we incorporate Coachmetrix into your business development process? And part of what we found in our work as we've talked to subscribers is that many of our subscribers are winning work and winning more work because of the application, because of Coachmetrix that they're using in their process. So there's some strategies that we want to share with you today, both before the engagement, during the engagement, and at the end of the engagement. And the theme here is that as we think about business development, to not just think about business development as kind of a one-time effort that happens only when you're trying to get a new client, but to think about utilizing and thinking about business development through an entire engagement. So more on that in a few minutes. For folks that don't know our story, Coachmetrix evolved because we needed a platform to measure behavioral change, to track action plans in our own coaching engagements. And what we started to find is that when people had action plans that were paper-based, they either didn't do the work to the extent that would drive behavioral change, but there was just also a lack of transparency and accountability between the coach, the coachee, and their manager. We also started to notice that, quite literally, people weren't bringing pens to their workshops, and we knew that a digital transformation would be underway in the coaching industry ahead of time. And maybe most importantly, we really wanted a method to track behavioral change. And so that's where Coachmetrix comes into play. It's made by coaches, made for coaches, by coaches. And what we really want to encourage all of our subscribers to do is to share their reactions to the tool. Let us know what's happening in the industry. Give us a sense of where you want to see Coachmetrix go in the future. Your input is important. We don't promise to make all the changes that you suggest, but we do promise to listen, and we hope that you'll be part of where we go with the platform in the future. All right, so let's jump into our conversation today. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, business development, when we think about business development and what we've seen from other coaches that do this really well, is they think about it not just at the beginning of an engagement, but throughout the engagement. And it's a lot easier to keep an existing client or to expand your work with an existing client than it is to try to find a new client. People who already know you, love you, trust you are much more likely to continue to do work with you than it is to have to build that trust with someone new, with a new engaged client. So we're going to think about business development from all phases of the engagement process, and specifically where to link Coachmetrix into that process. If you've got any questions, feedback, comment along the way, please feel free to jump in with your thoughts. So before the engagement, as we think about positioning Coachmetrix and positioning coaching in general, the first strategy is just to recognize and realize that executives buy results. They don't buy coaching. Coaching is a methodology. Coaching is a process. It's a way to intervene and to help drive behavioral change. But coaching will change and will evolve over time, as it has in the past. It's not really about coaching. It's about transformation. It's about helping people get better so that they can drive better business results. And so as you're thinking about positioning Coachmetrix or positioning your coaching practice, really be honing in on thinking about not necessarily selling the process and the benefits, but selling the impact. What does coaching do for people, process, in the business? What is the difference between when people come into a coaching engagement and when they leave the coaching engagement? Almost like a before and after case study, if you will. And then as you're thinking about your scripts, for maybe a discovery call or a strategy call, and any other conversation that you have in the selling process before an engagement, be thinking about how you can incorporate results into the process. So it's strategy one. Strategy number two is we've picked up on some language that successful coaches have used as they're selling the process of coaching, and as they're selling Coachmetrix and positioning Coachmetrix at the earliest stages of an engagement. And these are some of the words that we hear our subscribers using with their clients. Number one, we measure behavioral change with the same level of discipline that we do anything else in the business. Executives are focused on results, they're focused on driving change, and they're really good at measuring the what when it comes to business, but they often forget about that or don't know how to measure behavioral change when it comes to coaching. So you can position yourself as being a very data-driven coach and disciplined in behavioral measurement early on in the selling process. Another point that we often hear is that you can position Coachmetrix as a central hub for everything that you do within your coaching engagement: action planning, measurement, optimizing communication around the coaching process, so that you're coming to the table with a modern technology, a digital platform that will help improve and make the coaching process more efficient, both for you and for your clients. And then number three, as we're all emerging from the pandemic into probably what is shaping up for many clients as a hybrid world, the great news is you already have a platform that's designed for the hybrid world. And so there's probably some positioning that you can use here, leverage here in those early coaching selling conversations. Strategy number three, as you're positioning your proposal, to think about coaching and or leadership development programs that you have as more than just the coaching conversation. Oftentimes we get so attached to just the coaching conversation. And while the coaching conversation is important and probably the most important part of coaching, we have to think about really positioning everything else that we're bringing into the coaching engagement as we're selling to our clients. It's not just the coaching conversation, it's the action planning, it's the measurement, it's the library of tools and resources and frameworks and articles and mini courses that you might be bringing into the engagement. There's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value for your clients. It is the assignments, it's the reminders or the check-ins between the coaching and conversations that you can do through Coachmetrix or through some other method. It's the journaling, it's the check-ins. And so as you're thinking about positioning coaching and doing your proposal for coaching, we never just put down the number of coaching sessions that we're going to run with a client, because that's the fastest way to commoditize your service. Think about coming to the table with a platform, a process, a technology, and all of the things that you do around the coaching conversation. And there's some really good competition out there. If you look at some of the big companies that are commoditizing, I think, from my perspective, coaching, like Torch, BetterUp, and other platforms, they're coming to the table with a really compelling story. They have a platform, they have certified coaches, they have measurement, they have behavioral measurement data on how people are changing as a result of their coaching. Well, here's the great news. You can do the same thing with Coachmetrix. Strategy number four. We have a few resources that we're going to be sharing on our community page to help you incorporate Coachmetrix into your proposal. So start differentiating yourself by including information about Coachmetrix into your proposal. So we've got a little bit of like a one-pager, if you will, that we're working on. We should have that up on the community page probably early next week. But it's all about sharing the results. We measure impact, we create accountability, we make content accessible. And those are really easy messages and stories that you can share with your clients. We also have a video that you can incorporate into your proposal that gives like a snapshot and an overview of Coachmetrix for your clients. Strategy, this should be strategy number 5. There's a few other resources that are already on the community page inside of Coachmetrix. There's a nice one-page infographic on how Coachmetrix works. There's a link to the video that I just mentioned. So if you want to embed that that video onto your website or into a proposal in some other way, if you're using tools like Proposify or other online proposal tools. There's also an overview Coachmetrix video, and there's a Coachmetrix logo and a Coachmetrix authorized partner logo that you're allowed to use inside of your proposal. So take advantage of some of those resources. They'll help add credibility into the work that you do before an engagement. So that's sort of part one. Let me just pause here for a minute to open it up. Vern, Robin, Elise, Shauna, is there anything that I missed or any other ideas that you can think of that we want to communicate in terms of how to position Coachmetrix before the engagement?
So I think one thing I would just add is the significance of the word choice that you use. So, you know, we use words that resonate again with the client. It is the measurement piece to it, the transformation, the role of the supporter. So those kind of things that just have meaning, and as I said, will be impactful for the client. They will quickly understand that, and less so maybe the specific Coachmetrix terminology, but it's more of the phrasing.
Good point. Yeah, good point. So it's really about thinking about who our audience is. They're probably not going to be familiar with Coachmetrix, so making sure that we're using words that make sense to them.
Right.
It's about results. It's about transformation. It's about helping people make change. It's ultimately about helping the business succeed as well. We know that there's a strong correlation between stronger leadership and better business results. So using that type of language in the selling process, and Coachmetrix becomes a platform to add the discipline, the accountability, the transparency to help drive all of that.
Right.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Robin. All right, let's shift to part two, which is during the engagement. Again, business development can happen while you're on the engagement, and doing great coaching or running a great coaching practice by engaging with your sponsors and managers of the coachees can be really helpful. And when you start to build that strong relationship, not just with the coachee, but with other stakeholders of the client organization, those become selling points, even though we're not selling, we're just doing great work. But there's two critical points that we want to bring up here. Number one, think about implementing what we call client impact sessions throughout a coaching engagement, where you are meeting regularly with whoever your executive sponsors are. And during those regular meetings, you're sharing, here are three ideas, things that we typically share, but I'm sure there are other ideas that you might have as well. Number one, you're sharing progress of the engagement so that people always know where your coachees are based on the proposal and the engagement agreement that you put in place to begin with. Number two, share general observations and recommendations. So if you are coaching a number of people in an organization, what are the high-level themes that you're noticing about the culture, about general behavioral trends? We just met with a client recently after we're in the middle of an engagement with 10 different coachees. We're noticing some trends around conflict avoidance, about lack of responsiveness, some issues with ownership that we think are connected directly to business issues that they're having. So think about sharing those observations and recommendations, of course, all within the realm of confidentiality that you've set up with your client, but to really become that trusted advisor and to add tremendous business value to your clients, when you can start sharing what's happening with your clients at a macro level and making the connection to business, that's when you start to become more than just a coach and actually help the business grow. And then inside of that monthly, let's call it client impact session that you have, share some of the pulse feedback data. The simplest way to do that is to take a screenshot of the graphical data inside of Coachmetrix and then just copy and paste that into a PowerPoint. Other people will use the reporting function to take that raw CSV or Excel data and create their own graphical representation. The key is you're connecting with your clients, you're sharing measurement, you're sharing observations and recommendations. And oh, by the way, when you do that really well, that's business development. The second way or strategy that you can think about during an engagement is by keeping the manager of the participant informed. And there's a feature inside of Coachmetrix above the goals where you can export the participant's action plan. So this is great if you have joint coaching sessions with the participant and their manager, and you want to make sure their manager is aligned with the goals that that participant's working on before you start that pulse feedback process. And it helps you build a relationship with that participant's manager. And we know from a behavioral change standpoint that that manager plays a really critical role in helping that participant change. So you want to be connected with that manager, and you want to make sure that what you're working on is also aligned with what the manager thinks that he or she should be working on. I'll show you really quickly in Coachmetrix. If you're in the participants page, just above the goals, you'll see this button here that says share action plan. And that gives you or the participant the opportunity to share that action plan with anyone. It could be with the coach, with the supporters, with really any person who has an email address. You can share that action plan. So it's a great way to keep other people informed during the engagement that will help in your business development process. So let me pause there just to see if there's any reactions or thoughts. Did I miss anything, or what other ideas do you have in terms of during the engagement, how you can leverage Coachmetrix to help in your business development efforts?
I think it's pretty straightforward so far, Sal.
Pretty straight. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it works. So can't think of anything else at this stage.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks, Vern. Well, let's talk about toward the end of the engagement. There's a couple strategies that we would recommend that can help extend the life of your engagements. And again, part of what we're hearing from our subscribers are that they've been able to either sell more work or sell another phase of work or expand their relationship, partially because they have the measurement. So a couple of strategies here. I think we have 5 or 6 strategies here toward the end of the engagement. You can think about, if let's say you have a 6-month coaching engagement, and you may not even start that pulse feedback process until month 3 or even month 4. It's okay to have that pulse feedback extend beyond the end of the engagement. Number one, it adds accountability for the participant that you're coaching. Number 2, it gives you a reason to check back in, both with the participant as well as the executive sponsor. So you can have one of those client impact sessions several months after a coaching engagement ends and show the most relevant data. That's a business development conversation as much as it is an accountability and an update conversation. So leverage the fact that you've got pulse feedback going beyond the end of an engagement to continue your communication with both your executive sponsors as well as with your coachees. Strategy number 2, create a new online action plan. Maybe you're at the end of that 6-month or 12-month coaching engagement. You could go back to the existing data, whether it's from an online 360 or a verbal 360 or personality style profile, and have your client create a new goal or new goals in Coachmetrix. Again, it's a way to extend either the duration of the engagement, or it's an opportunity for you to check back in with them 3 or 4 or 6 months down the road to see how they're doing in regards to their new goals. Strategy number 3, it really builds on what I just said, and that maybe you're starting a fresh round of pulse feedback. It could either be with a different set of goals or with the existing set of goals. And again, you're extending the engagement from the sense that it's giving you a reason to pick up the phone, or get on another Zoom call with either the executive sponsor or the participant, because they're starting some new data. We finished a coaching engagement with a client at Zillow last year, and we used this methodology. She had made a lot of progress on her goals, and she said, okay, 3 months from now, let's start a new round of pulse feedback, because I've got some new team members that are going to be joining my team. I'll have worked on these new behaviors, and let's see how I can do from that standpoint. So again, it's been a great way to stay in touch with the client and continue her progress and learning. Strategy number 4. Yeah, Robin.
All right, just on that point, I mean, you could have a whole different list of supporters too, right?
Oh,
So
great
you're
point.
not exhausting the same people that, you know, are going to be overburdened. It could be an entirely different list of groups that you work with consistently, and it's just a different set of development opportunities that your client's working on, but in maybe a different direction.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it could be, you know, let's say sort of the first set of pulse feedback went out mostly to direct reports because the leader was working on something relating to leading others. Maybe there's a whole nother fresh round that is geared more toward peers or toward another stakeholder group. So yeah, I love that idea, Robin. It's a great way to continue the value and the learning from the coaching engagement beyond what was originally contracted for. The other way to think about it, if you're working with an executive team or a leadership team toward the end of your engagement, is to get really clear on the collective behaviors that the team is working on, and then use those behaviors as an action plan, either for the entire team or maybe everyone on that team has the same set of goals. And it becomes ultimately like either an individual or a collective scorecard. And then upsell quarterly maintenance. You've just been through a program with an executive team, but we know just like with individual behavior, collective behavior needs support in order and reinforcement in order for it to change. So you could shift to like a quarterly maintenance workshop and use the data that's inside of Coachmetrix to help drive some of either the topics that you talk about or help hold the team accountable. So the whole idea of like a team scorecard can become a good way to enhance your business development efforts. Strategy number 5. Let's say you come to the end of the engagement and you know that you've got, you want to stay in touch with the client. And what you could do is you can schedule a series of discussions through Coachmetrix. So again, we just did this last year. You can see this is from July of 2021. We finished an engagement in May, and we said, all right, let's set up a discussion for 6 weeks out from now. And we just wrote the email, scheduled it out, and sure enough, the client responded. And it's just a great way to build a nurture sequence, a great way to continue communication with a client. You're kind of automating some of that work, and it's still highly personalized for what that individual person needs. All right, and strategy number 6, we haven't done this, but we've seen some coaches do it, which is create a subscription offering. Maybe you end an engagement and you want your client to have continued access to Coachmetrix, and you charge them a monthly fee. Or maybe you finished a leadership development cohort of 10 leaders and you want to sort of get them into like a subscription offering. You could offer a new resource through Coachmetrix or a new exercise every month. You could offer to do some online coaching check-in. You could have them create a new action plan with new measurement and kind of package that together into like a subscription offering. And it would be something that could be repeatable across clients, and you could almost build a community of people who are now paying you a subscription offering. Strategy number 7, this is our last strategy here, and then we've got 1 or 2 other ideas, is put together a case study. What was happening with your client before the coaching? What was happening with the client after the coaching? Use some of that Coachmetrix data to support your analysis, your findings, and the results. And then you can leverage those case studies in future business development efforts and also share that with your existing executive sponsors. So those are some strategies to incorporate Coachmetrix into your business development toward the end of an engagement. Let me open it up, and then I'll have one sort of final bonus idea before we wrap up today. Any other thoughts, or what are you doing in your engagements?
I kind of like strategy number 6, specifically around the subscription model or opportunity. Would it perhaps be possible in a future update to incorporate that as part of the platform so that you can maybe upsell or cross-sell, via the platform to those clients who want to continue?
Yeah, and what would that look like, Vern? Just to give me a little bit of thinking here on how you would see the platform doing that work.
I'm thinking, as they log into their platform, there's an opportunity where maybe certain buttons give them access to certain sort of products and or services. For example, specifically linked to the subscription, their engagement came to an end, and here's an opportunity now to still have access to the resources that you've shared with them throughout the engagement. And they will also have access to any new resources that'll be, that'll be shared with them afterwards, right? But I'm just thinking that could potentially work. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's like anything that we can do to sort of automate that process. But now you're saying giving the coaches the automation within Coachmetrix to be able to do that, to automate that subscription process.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how practical that is, but it'll be great if they, so sort of you use the platform to upsell and cross-sell them, right there. I don't know.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that input, Vern. Very helpful. Robin, anything, or Elise, coming up for you as we think about business development before, during, after that I didn't get to today?
I just would stress the engagement part, throughout the engagement, to make sure that you stay in constant contact with the manager or the sponsor and the executive team to make them aware of the progress being made. As you said, some of those insights that you as a trusted advisor get that can be shared are extremely valuable, but it's just staying engaged on a frequent basis.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Robin. I remember last year we finished an engagement with a client. We had 13 coachees in this particular engagement that were all going through the process at the same time. And we ended the engagement. It was either in November or December. And we decided with the executive sponsor that we would meet again in March so that we could review some of the pulse feedback results that had shown up over the course of those 3 months, because they were only maybe halfway through the pulse feedback process. It was great. It was another touch point. And guess what? Literally yesterday, we're signing a contract for 11 more coaches with that same organization. And I think part of the process is because over the last 3 years, we've been able to consistently show them the discipline and the results that we've been able to produce. So it's a great point. One sort of final bonus idea, and this came up as I was thinking, Robin, about one of the best practice masterclasses we did last fall on the future of coaching. And part of what we know is changing in our world is, for many people, the skills that they will have to develop are changing just because of automation and artificial intelligence and, I don't know, maybe changes in the metaverse, but fundamentally people will have to change behaviors. Coachmetrix could become a platform to help measure that behavior change. So as your organization's thinking about how people will have to shift their behaviors to be more effective in the future, or maybe they're shifting from, a completely from one role that will ultimately get replaced by automation to a whole different set of roles or responsibilities. If we can identify those behaviors, you could start to help people measure those behaviors, or even measure the behaviors of a collective group of people. Coachmetrix could become a platform to help organizations get ready for the future and measure how well their people are changing and getting there. So that was my final bonus idea that came up from that Future of Coaching Best Practices Masterclass that we did last fall. All right, so that's all that I had for today. Any final closing comments as we wrap up for the weekend? All right, well, Vern, thanks for joining from Poland. Robin, Elise, Shauna, thanks for joining as well. We'll be posting this on the community page some point next week, along with a few other resources to help in your business development efforts. Hope you have a great rest of the weekend.